All right, today we are diving into something pretty extraordinary, the Bibi Files. This is a documentary based on over 1,000 hours of secret police tapes, all featuring Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. We're going to unpack the criminal cases against him, focusing on the actual evidence you hear in these leaked recordings.
I mean, it's a question straight out of a political thriller, right? We're not talking about public speeches or press conferences. This is what a leader says behind closed doors when investigators are turning up the heat. And yeah, releasing these tapes has basically set off a political earthquake. Over 1,000 hours. Just let that sink in. That is the staggering amount of leaked audio from interrogations with Netanyahu, his family, and his inner circle. All of it was recorded between 2017 and 2018, and it is the entire foundation for a bombshell documentary that came out in 2024. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. Broadcasting these recordings, it's actually illegal in Israel. But, and this is a big but, in 2023, they were leaked to American filmmakers. So they were the ones who brought this story to the world, completely sidestepping Israeli law to do it. Okay, so let's open the first file. This is Case 1000. It's a pretty classic story of alleged corruption, getting all sorts of luxury gifts in return for some very high-stakes political favors. So the core accusation boils down to a simple, alleged trade. On one side, you have this steady flow of luxury goods coming to the Netanyahu family from wealthy benefactors like Hollywood producer Arnon Milchan. And on the other side, you have the prime minister allegedly taking action, like pushing for a tax law change or stepping in to help someone get a U.S. visa. And look, we're not talking about a couple of friendly gifts here. According to witnesses in the film, this was a supply chain. We're talking thousands of dollars worth of Cuban cigars. They even had a code name, Green Leaves. Cases of expensive pink champagne. There was even a $2,000 diamond bracelet. And the crucial part, witnesses claim these weren't just gifts. They were straight-up demands from the family. So, when the police presented Netanyahu with all this evidence during his interrogation, what did he say? Well, according to the tapes, the man who is famous for his incredible memory just repeatedly said, "I don't remember. It's all nonsense. This is a witch hunt." But the story doesn't stop with cigars and champagne. Case 4000 gets into what you could argue is an even more serious charge, allegedly trading regulatory power for control over the public narrative itself. So here's the alleged deal. A telecom tycoon named Shaul Ilovich, who was apparently in a lot of debt, would get favorable government policies worth millions. And in exchange, the documentary alleges, Netanyahu and his family got complete editorial control over Walla News, which is one of Israel's most popular news websites. And when we say control, we mean absolute control. According to the source material, the Netanyahu family was personally deciding which stories got published and which ones got buried. They allegedly dictated exactly how their political rivals should be portrayed, basically turning a major news outlet into their personal megaphone. The tapes also give us a really raw look into the family's mindset. At one point, during her own interrogation, Sarah Netanyahu apparently just becomes furious with the police, shouting at them, "Do you know how respected my husband is in America?" And it didn't even stop there. Their son, Yair, is said to have taken it to another level, comparing the Israeli police to the Gestapo and the Stasi, implying they were some kind of totalitarian, persecuting force. The film suggests this paints a picture of a family that truly sees itself as being above the law. Okay, so this is the crucial question, right? How does all of this stuff, these allegations from inside police interrogation rooms, how does that connect to the massive political crises we're seeing in Israel today? Well, the film draws a very direct line. Let's connect the dots here, based on the film's argument. It starts in 2019, Netanyahu gets indicted, but he refuses to step down. Then, to hold onto power, he reportedly forms a coalition with extremist parties that used to be considered totally out of bounds. And then comes 2023, when his government pushes for a judicial overhaul that would weaken the Supreme Court, the very court that could convict him. And that move sparks some of the biggest protests in Israel's entire history. So the central argument in the documentary is that these corruption charges, they're not just some sideshow. They are being presented as the main driver behind a whole series of political decisions that have torn Israeli society apart. And that brings us to the film's most dramatic claim, which it attributes to former security officials. They argue that for Netanyahu, the ongoing war has become a tool for, political survival. The logic they present is this: as long as the war is going on, you can't hold elections. And as long as there are no elections, he stays prime minister, and his trial gets pushed further and further down the road. So, this brings us to the final takeaway from all the material we've just covered. The story being told in the Bibi Files is about way more than just one person's legal battles.
What makes these tapes so powerful is that they give us this rare, completely unfiltered look. They claim to show how a powerful leader acts, not when he's in front of the cameras and the crowds, but when he's under real pressure, facing hard evidence in a police interrogation room.
And ultimately, the story presented in these tapes leaves all of us with a really profound question, one that goes way beyond any single country or any single leader. When a leader's personal and political survival are on the line, what is the ultimate cost to